Hello, Victory Village, and welcome back to TYTV. I'm your host, Twanna Y'vette. For the next few minutes, we're going to be doing a flashback, if you will, a throwback to one of the greatest groups um, that I've ever heard, that I've ever listened to in my life. We're talking about the Temptations today and the trauma that some of these men, dare I say, all of them went through, um, that some of us didn't even know about. One in particular, a story that I ran across, and I'm going to share the video with you guys, was about Dennis Edwards. It's about the way that he passed away. I was unaware of a lot of the things that I saw, and it kind of took me back. I was just like, wow, I was totally fully aware of Ollie Woodson. He was the lead singer for the Temptations after Dennis Edwards. He passed away very young at the age of 58 years old. And that was shocking, to say the least, because I remember when that happened and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, what is going on? What is happening? And to hear just how this happened to Dennis Edwards was very strange and very unusual. And I found a lot of facts that I want to share with you guys, starting with this video. So I am going to bring up the video footage for you guys so that we can see it together.
Dennis Edwards stunned the music world. Then a seismic aftershock, allegations that he was abused by his wife before his death.
Tonight, she's speaking for the first time to CBS 2 investigator Brad Edwards, and she says she didn't fail Dennis Edwards, the state of Illinois did.
So I'm going to be doing a little bit of commentary, but if you want to hear the videos and read the articles, of course, I will put them in the description box, but because of YouTube policy, I'm going to have to do a little commentary in between. So I am sorry for that. The first thing I want to say is that this video dropped in October 11th of 2018. And as we will see, Mr. Edwards passed away earlier that year. So this investigation was ongoing from before he even passed away. And it was against his wife, Deborah Edwards.
Everybody knows I love my husband. There's a lot of singers. There's only one Dennis Edwards. My husband was loud. But I'm quiet.
Our songs were about the love between a man and a woman.
I never had a chance to say goodbye.
Dennis, start here.
Dennis Edwards died in Chicago, February 1st from complications of meningitis. Then the headlines. Edwards' wife abused him, that she took his hearing aids. Dennis Edwards himself said she tried to suffocate him by holding his head face down.
Could you have turned him?
Now, before I go on, let me just say he had suffered a stroke. He had suffered meningitis. He was having complications, including hallucinations. You will hear all of this in the testimony. But of course, I had to stop and say something. This was very interesting, the way things were turned, because they needed someone to blame this on. It was almost like, I need the saga to continue. And so it was a big thing, but it was towards the wrong person, in my opinion. I'm very interested to see how you guys see this, because I love the conversations that we have after my videos. So I know that you guys probably have some facts as well. I was young when the group first came out, and so I'm only 50, okay, but this still, it was very interesting to me, because to this day in 2021, I did not know any of these facts. So this is why this is so interesting to me, because I thought he had just, passed away of old age. And a lot of these singers in the Temptations, I mean, they went through it. And I remember watching the movie. You guys remember the movie? Put in the comments if you remember the movie about the Temptations. Oh my goodness. I remembered it and I wanted to know how accurate it was. And this is what we're all about to find out.
That way on your own?
No way. No way.
He was a big man.
Yes, he was a big man.
We interviewed his widow, Brenda Edwards, in St. Louis, the couple's home. They came to Chicago for Dennis's treatment when
Nobody would believe that someone could come to your home, take a family member, and you never see them again.
It is baffling.
Brenda Edwards, St. Louis attorney.
I have no doubt that this did not need to happen. She is a practicing nurse. She'd been his primary caregiver for many years and his wife of 18 years.
Okay, I got to stop right there. She's a practicing nurse. So if she wanted to do something to this man, she could have been done it. She knows medicine, okay? His primary caregiver for years. So already this doesn't sound right to me. But you guys let me know what you think. Already this is sounding crazy, okay? Because I didn't know her profession. You know, a lot of these women, you know, no shade or whatever, but, you know, they kind of don't have to work. So her attorney said she's a practicing nurse. And I'm not sure if he was her only patient or maybe it got to that, you know, roundabout way because he needed, you know, 24-hour care. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep listening.
December 2017, Brenda and Dennis lived in this South Michigan Avenue high-rise. He was improving, but on a lot of meds.
And he was depressed,
Yes,
paranoid.
yes. He just had thoughts that people were trying to do things to him.
And that was well documented.
Yes.
Even in his Northwestern Hospital discharge papers.
Okay, listen
On December
to this.
29th, patient Edwards has odd paranoid thoughts, saying his wife or the primary medical team was trying to kill him.
His wife or the primary medical team. So you're not going to point the finger at the medical team, are you? When you could just point the finger at the wife. But he thought somebody was trying to him. Paranoid thoughts. They said it was odd paranoid thoughts. But if you've been through a stroke and you're going through meningitis along with, you know, other medical conditions, isn't that possible?
Paranoia noted, he was discharged to his wife. On January 3rd, in his wife's care, a caseworker arrived to investigate an abuse complaint that came into a state tip line while Dennis Edwards was hospitalized.
And I was his.
Now, I have to stop right here and just say really quick, this sounds like a setup. After he was released from the hospital, he was released in her care, regardless of what the paperwork said. So, is it normal that the patient would get released into that person's care and then all of a sudden a state representative comes to observe, you know, or whatever her, you know, job is doing? The wife thinks that you're working on her side and then this happens.
Hysterical.
After Dennis said he was being abused, the caseworker called the cops and had him removed.
And I was just begging him to take him to the hospital that he was discharged from.
Northwestern, where Edwards was treated for months, where they knew his care, knew his caretaker, knew his paranoia. Instead, he was taken to Mercy Hospital, where he'd never been. More puzzling yet, on January 12th, the caseworker filed an emergency order of protection, in essence saying Brenda represented a threat to Dennis.
Now, here's the thing. You took him to a hospital that didn't know him, didn't have any of his records. I'm pretty sure back then things were a little different now. Right now, you know, in 2021, we're all on a system. So if your doctors are all working on that system, no matter where you go in the United States of America, they will have access. But, you know, this was in 2018. So things obviously were a little different. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so concerned. You know, take him where he's been going. You won't let me do it. You won't let me near him. He needs to go to the hospital. Take him to where they know him. and they ended up taking him to a completely different hospital, probably because of what the paperwork said between somebody at that other hospital and the wife. Somebody, was trying to him. And so, anyway, this just gets more and more absurd.
Edwards could not be hurt. He was in the hospital.
Brenda called Chicago attorney Mackenzie Hyde.
I would say that the state failed Dennis Edwards.
On January 12th, as Brenda is being deemed a threat, she's texting the caseworker proof that Dennis's hearing aids were being repaired to tell Dennis she misses him more than he'll ever know, even thanking the caseworker, whom she didn't know at the time was getting an emergency order of protection against her.
Miss Edwards.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You think these people are working with you, and the whole time, they're listening to your information, they're reading your information, they're talking to you on the phone, we know what it's like. If you've ever taken care of someone elderly, if you've ever taken care of kids, and, you just have that feeling, this person, I don't think this person is here, to help me. You know what I'm saying? And this is one of those cases. And like I said, when he passed away years ago, for one, I guess because, I was so young, but I had no idea that all of this was even going on. This is horrible for his entire family, but the wife especially. I would hate to have been married to this man for years, my only husband for years, for the majority of my life, and not be able to see him at his lowest moments right before he passes. And he passes alone or with strangers, which is still the same thing, in a place where he's not familiar. There's not a loved one holding his hand or talking to him or praying with him or singing him music or even playing him music that he, from his old Temptation days, making it comfortable. No, there was none of that going on. And yeah, let's listen. Here's why.
Edwards was shocked to find out that they had filed an order of protection against her.
Then Mrs. Edwards waited for a February 2nd court date where she'd fight to get Dennis back.
Mr. Edwards died the night before the hearing.
Dennis Edwards, loving husband, Temptations forever, Army veteran, didn't make it to that February
1st, 2018. All right? And they didn't release any of this information for the press until October 11th of 2018. Why? Because the case was still pending and it was still being investigated even after his burial.
Second court date. He's buried at Jefferson Barracks National Cemetery in St. Louis. Even now,
I still don't have the answers.
Mr. Edwards has passed. She has been hurt. She has a right to know what's in that file.
So, how did this happen? The State Department on Aging refused to talk to us on camera, not even to explain how the process should work. They also rejected repeated FOIA requests for information.
Should the state answer these questions?
I hope that the state will look into this and try to learn lessons from this case. What could we do better?
We do know the caseworker was employed by Dalton-based Healthcare Consortium of Illinois. The state vendor has handled 464 elder abuse investigations since 2015, says the state. How many of those ended in orders of protection like the one filed against Brenda Edwards? The Department of Aging, quote, does not have the ability to generate that information.
There has to be.
So you're trying to tell me that you have the power to answer all of these other questions and down to the number how many cases, but you can't look at any of that paperwork and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many people, how many cases that ended in an order of protection? Horse pucky.
Some modicum of due process, and there wasn't any in this case.
No.
They've now filed this complaint with the Inspector General's office, fighting in death for her husband, who is now at rest, yet peace evades his widow.
What's that like, not being able to see your spouse in the end of their life.
You feel like you failed them. He probably felt abandoned. He probably gave up.
Brad Edwards, CBS 2 investigators.
That's insane. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. Well, I did a little digging around because y'all know how I am. And I well, let me just let you know what I uncovered. I'm just gonna push this back a little bit. I wanted to know about his replacements after um, after he passed away, or when after he wasn't able to work. And of course, Ollie Woodson, he was a singer for the Temptations after Dennis Edwards. He passed away at the age of 58. Why so soon? Sunday night's death of Ollie Woodson, who sang lead for the Temptations in the 1980s and 1990s, sadly extends one of the popular music's most star-crossed stories. For the 5 original Temptations also passed away very young, a tragic turn for a group that made some of the most endearing music of the last half century, dare I say, of all time. Woodson, who was 58, he passed away of cancer, from which he had been suffering for many years. Something also I didn't know. He was not an original Temptation, but he joined the group in '84 as a replacement for Dennis Edwards because, he suffered from the stroke, and then, he couldn't go back to work. He kept getting sicker, and then he ended up losing his life because of the meningitis, and probably, broken heart, anguish, and all of this other things that we just now found out was going on. Ollie sang lead for that year on Treat Her Like a Lady, which became the group's last major radio hit. While he made only that modest mark on the record, Woodson became known to thousands of fans from Temptations live appearances over the next decade. He sang the rough gospel influenced vocals originated by David Ruffin and later Edwards in the group's 1960 hits like My Girl, I Wish It Would Rain, and I Can't Get Next to You. So Woodson left the group in '87, returned in '88, and left for good in '96 to battle throat cancer. So he had this swagger about himself. I totally agree, says the Motown Alumni Association president Billy Davis. He was real cool. He had a coolness about himself that was really very inviting, and I totally agree. So if you've ever seen these men in person, we got the pleasure of actually seeing him in Alabama because he had some relatives down here. And I did not know that. And I'm talking right up the street. I was probably, when he first hit Alabama, I was probably right down the street from this man and didn't even know it. It took me by surprise. Despite his fame, though, Woodson was always a gentleman and always polite and kind to everybody. If we ever asked him to do anything, he never said no, or it's going to cost you or something like that. He would say, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. What do you need? Among the original Temptations, only founder Otis Williams survives. Paul Williams, he committed, sorry, I can't be permitted to say that anymore, but he committed in 1973 at the age of 34. Ruffin passed away in '91 of a drug at the age of 50. And Eddie Kendricks, who sang lead on songs like Just My Imagination, passed away in '92 of lung cancer at the age of 52. And bass Melvin Franklin, one of my favorites, was the same age when he passed in '95 of heart failure. So as you can see, everybody in this group had just some craziness. It just, when you find out about this stuff, it's like, really? What? Well, if you're familiar with the movie, the Temptations singer's son was family member and now wants this. This was posted in September 18th, 2015. Okay, you're seeing the group there. So lovely. Now, they say that in out of court with Motown over royalty payments ever since Paul committed by gunshot at the age of 34 in 73. So I was already born. I was born in 1971. So they were already, you know, in this, turmoil, in this devastation already. This happened in 73, and of course, he was only 34. So that's so crazy. Uh, they have come out on top in some instances, and sometimes, they have not. But overall, they are a total of 7 children, 2 of whom didn't surface until after Paul was laid to rest, and a wife who have been getting their fair shares of Paul's earnings that still seem to flow in to this very day. At one point, Paul's family claimed they were owed $195,000, but Motown argued that the family couldn't legally pursue royalties that were older than 6 years. So they eventually settled in March of '88 for $96,520, which covered a portion of Paul's royalty payments for the years of '81 through June of '87. So Paul had 2 sons and 3 daughters with his loving wife, Mary Agnes, Paula, and Mary and Kenneth and Paul Jr., and his other 2 children, Paul Williams and Lucas and Derek Vineyard, were born outside of his marriage. Did not know that either. All kids get a share of money every year from Paul's royalties. Now that we broke down the division of Paul's ends, let's get back to his son, Kenneth, okay? After a neighbor found his aunt's body in the head with a telephone cord wrapped 3 times around his neck, Kenneth Williams had plenty of time to sit in and analyze what happened. Here's what was reported via the estate of denial. I was out of my mind on cocaine, said Williams. I was out of control. Prison basically saved my life. Okay? Young Kenneth had lived a charmed life before the passing of his father. Kenneth spent nights on the road with his father and the group in Las Vegas, Miami, and Atlanta. Where the show went, I went, he said. So Kenneth, nicknamed Boss Man by his dad, spent afternoons learning from Temptations frontman Dennis Edwards how to make paper airplanes, which he threw out of windows from, the upper floor of Motown headquarters along Woodward. Kenneth was 11 years old when his father passed. The outgoing youngster turned angry, rebellious, and was put out of every single school in Detroit. I was lost, he said. I lost my best friend. So at 19 years of age, he smoked his first. At 25, he tried. At 27, that took me to another place, he says. That's how old he was when he strangled his great aunt. No other way to say it. He turned 28 just before heading to prison. I was trying to deal with why I was in prison and what made me go there. Was it the money? I wasn't even thinking about it. So he thought the cash was safe during the 7,536 days he spent in prison. He was released July the 23rd of 2011. When he learned his money was gone, he soon learned that his cash was all gone and confronted his sister, who admitted spending the money he alleges in a court filing. Okay, she thought he was never going to get out of prison. His lawyer Kenneth Berger wrote in a lawsuit. So Paul Williams Jr. told the Detroit News that he hasn't received his full share of royalties in years from Paula. She's doing it to all of us, said Paul Jr. of Sterling Heights, said she did right by us for 10 years, but she's been slipping since then. It's greed. So Kenneth, meanwhile, works 15-hour days at a construction site while his lawsuit against his sister and Motown successor, Universal Music Group, is pending in federal court. He alleges breach of contract, negligence, fraud, conspiracy, among other charges, and wants unspecified damages. Okay. Kenneth Williams has asked Universal to send further payments directly to his house. He refuses to be bitter or angry despite the fight with his sister. I'm still there for her if she needs me, but I don't trust people after what I've been through. We live in a wicked world. Um, yeah. So I'm going to put this from iloveoldschoolmusic.com in the description box so you guys can finish that. So those were the highlights, and it just really is so weird, but it's not uncommon that stuff like this, goes on, right? Well, um, Distractify. How did the founding members of the Temptations pass away? And every last one of them suffered something crazy, as we heard earlier in some of the articles. It was just I don't understand. I mean, it was crazy. Like Eddie passed away of lung cancer in 92, and then Melvin was the most recent of the original members to pass away, suffering from a series of seizures, then eventually led to his passing in 1995. So here it is, 2015. The 2000. It's 2021, Twanna. What do you mean? Oh my God, this story has me reeling. Okay, so I'm looking up. I want to know what is going on with the Temptations. So I'm gonna go to their website. Um, who are the current Temptations? The group whose current lineup features founding member Otis Williams, okay, Ron Tyson, Terry Weeks, Larry Braggs, and Willie Green. They remain active, playing at least 75 dates a year. So look at that. And this was May 3rd of 2018, and they have not changed this. Their website is thetemptationsofficial.com, and I will drop that in the description box as well. Um, Somebody asked, are the original Temptations still touring? We started letting uh, Matter What, Shouldn't Matter, Egos, and Drugs Got in the Way since their founding. 26 members have been part of the group, which still tour today. That was in 2019. So they're, basically, there's been a lot of things that, I mean, you really, is there a book? Does anybody know if there's a book? September 7th, 2020, only one of the founding members of the Temptations is still alive, and that is Otis Williams. Okay, he owns the rights to the group's name and is still a member of the band, is the only member, true, living, surviving member. And if we remember correctly, even from the movie, Otis started the whole thing. He fought for the Temptations, and it is just very ironic in something. There's like a word that I need to fill in the blank, but that it's something that Otis Williams, he started the Temptations, and he's the only one that's still here after all the craziness that went on. Let's see. I'm gonna flip this so you guys can actually see the website, so you'll know where to go to get some information. If you want to see Otis and the other gentlemen still touring and whatnot, you can go to thetemptationsofficial.com and get all of their information, including their social media and all of that stuff. Celebrating 60 years in 2021, the Temptations. So this is really amazing how they have the website with all of the tour information, old pictures, new pictures. I see they're still doing their moves and everything. Like, this is really amazing. I'm going to click on tour and see what's going on. Okay, October 27th, Grand Opera House in Wilmington, D USA, October 28th in Keswick Theater, Glenside, PA. Oh my goodness. I mean, they really do have like a full for the rest of the year. Like they're working. My goodness, look at that. November 6th, November 7th, November 17th, November 18th, November 19th. I mean, their November, honey, is booked up, okay? And then you get on to December. They got a little break between November 26th and December the 2nd. They're going to be on the road, and let's see, they're moving on December 17th, 18th. Okay, so they get a little break between December 18th and January 13th. So they already have bookings for next year, you guys. These people are working. Like they don't get a break, okay? They've got videos on this website, they've got music. I'm going to put this website in the description box so you guys can take a look at all of this. This is amazing. I am so glad that I was able to do this story for you guys, for us, because I had no clue that all of this stuff had gone on. And you know what? There's a lot of other things that happened that you'll be able to see, as you read up in your spare time or whatever. But I'm really amazed. And as I look at these pictures, I'm like remembering things that I've seen on TV, even like original footage of them, celebrating different holidays. I remember that when they got their star. I remember seeing that on TV. Like, it's just so much. And I'm just like, God, it's 2021. I'm 50 years old, and I'm actually seeing, all the replacements and seeing Otis up there with all the newest members and never giving up the dream. These are senior citizens working, okay? So if there's nothing wrong with you and you're totally healthy and you can go to work, go to work, okay? Otis has worked his whole life, 60 years in the band, in the group, never getting any time off, finding replacements for people. And, he just never gave up the dream. If Otis is not the epitome of never give up, if never give up was a person, it would be Otis. Okay. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys. I love that we got to share this story together. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching the video with me. I will make sure again to leave all of the receipts and video footage and all of that in the description box for you guys. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the story and share any memories that you have of going to concerts or remembering the Temptations on television, listening on the radio or whatever. What were you doing the first time you heard a Temptation song? List it below in the comments. I want to know. All right, I'm going to get out of here, but I want you guys to play it safe outside. Wear your mask, use your hand sanitizer, wear your gloves at the pump if you can. Remember to always, always live on purpose. And I will talk to you guys in the next video. Bye for now, Village.